Hi, happy Thursday. Hope everyone's alright. I've got some thoughts about RhoGAM, you know, the anti-D shot that they give to Rhesus negative mothers during pregnancy. And I don't know, I've just made a few notes and I just wanted to speak about it. And it really bothers me so much, like certain things bother me so much that I have to speak about them. I think this is what like half the videos are. So anyway, and I have tried to speak about this before. Obviously, I'm not a doctor and I don't know anything. But sometimes, you know, things just don't make sense, do they? Especially in this crazy world. And I think basically what stirred off my feelings this morning was that I saw that there's this group being formed called When Push Comes to Shove. And it's this group of mothers that had like really awful experiences during their labours, during their birth of their child. And yeah, and that's as far as I know about it. I just saw like a little promo video. But I heard in the video, you know, people saying their experiences are like the midwife would be telling him to push when they're not ready, or, you know, they had these drugs that they didn't want, the midwives were too busy, or they were experienced, or, you know, they were whatever, just, you know, awful stories of birth. And my first labour was pretty awful as well. And it's all this medical intervention. I've mentioned it in videos prior. Again, sorry for repetition. It's just, these are my repetitive thought loops, I guess. So I was, in my opinion, pretty feeling like naturally ready to push my baby out. And they, you know, told me that I wasn't ready because I wasn't however many centimetres dilated I needed to be. And then, you know, juiced me up with some bullshit and numbed me. And then, you know, like 12 hours later, they had to pull him out with forceps. So, like, it was shit. And I know that if I'd have been in a field when this happened, instead of at a hospital where they're supposed to be helping you, I would have given birth naturally, just right then. Like, when it felt like I was ready to push, I would have pushed and he would have come. I know it. And I know everybody's like, oh yeah, but what if? And it's like, I feel like this is the trick of the pharmaceutical industry. It's these precautionary measures and interventions that are never proven to be needed. And once you've had them, you can't prove that it would have been all right if you'd not have had it anyway. You know, a bit like what's going on now. So anyway, they interfere in so many ways and we don't need it. And so anyway, fast forward to today, where like I've been interested in finding more out about the Rhesus negative factor and why it's so hidden and why nothing really makes sense. To me anyway, to my head, nothing makes sense. And finally, resting again back on this RhoGAM anti-D injection that Rhesus negative mums are given. And I don't like the way that it's sort of how the information is communicated. Basically, you know, the science, as they'd say, is that a Rhesus negative mum's antibodies could attack the Rhesus positive fetus that she's carrying. And therefore we need anti-D, right? But it's said as like, and this is what happens in 100% of the cases. And it's also kind of used quite a lot in the, you know, in the online world, where people are theorising and chatting about Rhesus negative origins and stuff, you know, Nephilim, alien, all this bollocks. And I hear a lot of people using it as a piece of evidence to prove that we're a mutation, we're an alien, because, oh my God, the mother's bodies kill the babies. if they don't have this medical intervention. Well, I mean, that's a very big if. That's a very big if. And I'm going to leave 2 videos down beneath, but I've got a couple of notes that I'll just try and get off some bits that I wanted to say. That's not a fact. And people say it as a fact. Even Rhesus negative people go around saying it as a fact. So anyway, RhoGAM, anti-D, this injection. So we're told it's precautionary, right? That it's to prevent this thing from happening, from the mother's antibodies attacking the red blood cells of the baby. But according to these midwives that I was listening to earlier, and I'll leave a note, you know, a link to the video down beneath, it's very, very rare that they ever see Rhesus disease. And Rhesus disease is what they call a woman who's built up antibodies to positive blood group, like during the pregnancy. So first of all, on your first pregnancy, you don't have to have this injection. They say it's to prevent it from happening in subsequent pregnancies. Like, supposedly, the more often your negative body carries a positive baby, the stronger the antibody response becomes. Therefore, more chance of, if the blood were to cross, it attacking the red blood cells of the fetus. So anyway, they just make out as if it's like such a regular old occurrence, and, you know, people use it to, like, I don't know, it's just never felt right. So anyway, where do I start with this bullshit? Right. So it's this injection, this anti-D, this RhoGAM, it's called in America, made by Johnson & Johnson. I'm going to put a link to Star Child 2009. She's done a load of Rhesus negative research. And she did a video a few months ago on the link between RhoGAM and autism as well. So I'm just going to put those videos down beneath, and you can have a look and listen for yourself if you're interested. And if you're not, this is my, you know, I'm recording this for myself. So anyway, anti-D or RhoGAM is routinely given at 28 and 34 weeks, and after you've had a baby, if it's a positive baby, given up to 72 hours afterwards. So that's like 3 injections during 9 months. Golly. Okay, so I'm going to rewind because these notes are not really in order, but so we very rarely see Rhesus disease. The chance of a mum's antibodies crossing the placenta into the fetus is very, very rare. And if you don't need it on the first pregnancy and you can carry a positive baby and have it healthily, apparently the antibodies arise in the very last moments of the pregnancy and the birth. Like, that's when you, as the negative mother, develop these antibodies. So anyway, it's very, very rare. Less than 1% chance. That small percent of the chance of the blood ever crossing the placenta increases if there's, you know, a trauma or a bleed, or, you know. But I was listening to this woman saying it's so rare. Like, she'd never seen it. I think she might have said she'd seen it once in 10 years. And anyway, so if you're a Rhesus negative woman, there's a 40% chance apparently that you'll have a Rhesus negative baby. And if you have a Rhesus negative baby inside your body, there's absolutely no need to have the RhoGAM. This is for Rhesus negative women who are carrying a positive baby. So this lady was saying on her video that I'll put down beneath, so that means that like 40% of the time, women are having unnecessary RhoGAM shots because unless they're testing the baby's blood type, which apparently they do in England, I know they did it for me, England or the UK, Finland and the Netherlands, I think this midwife said routinely do these blood tests where you can test to see what the baby's blood type's going to be. But anyway, so it's like it's just standard procedure to just fucking juice up rhesus negative women with this. So 40% of the time it's unnecessary if you're carrying a negative baby anyway. You wouldn't need those shots that you have during the pregnancy. And in other countries they don't even do that testing. So, you know, it's crazy. Right, what else have I got here? So very rarely see Rhesus disease, which is a woman who's built up the antibodies to a positive blood group. 1% of the time it occurs randomly. And during birth, it's only a 16% chance that the blood would mix. So already that's like, you know, from how it's sort of thrown out and portrayed, you know, that like Rhesus negative women will attack a positive baby unless you have this super juice 3 times during your pregnancy, and, you know, again and again with each baby that you carry. You know, the chances of needing that are going down and down and down and down and down. And again, so if the first pregnancy is fine, that says to me that Rhesus negative women's bodies don't attack the fetus. Like, they can carry babies quite fine. You know, I've seen in hundreds of comments and heard anecdotally, and I actually know people who are Rhesus negative who've had Rhesus positive fathers and they've had no RhoGAM anti-D shot and they've had a healthy baby. And of course there'll be a lot of stories of the opposite as well, where people have said they've miscarried. But, you know, it's a strange thing, you know. It's a bit like what's going on with these juices now, isn't it? And people are saying, oh, they've saved so many lives, and you go, how can you even say that? It's like, you know, people say since the 60s or 70s or whatever, when these RhoGAM shots came out, they've saved thousands of babies' lives. Thank God for medical science. And I think to myself, well, how do you know? Like, they wouldn't have survived if you'd not juiced them up. Going back to Star Child's research, like I said, Johnson & Johnson are behind RhoGAM in America, and there are some really interesting studies out that have been redacted that show correlation between, because I think before 2002, RhoGAM was preserved in thimerosal, which is a fucking ethyl mercury, obviously heavily toxic, and there are some studies showing the link between children born with autism or neurodevelopment issues and their parents, their mothers, being Rhesus negative and having received the RhoGAM shot during pregnancy, which has been redacted now. And apparently Johnson & Johnson funded a new research which counters that. So it's all so fucking dodgy, innit? But basically, you don't, I mean, every case is different as well, but you don't need to have it unless, you know, there's a big chance that your blood's going to be mixing. I mean, that's what the placenta's for. The placenta is God's creation to stop the mother and the child's blood mixing. That's what the placenta is. It's an organ grown from the uterus to stop things being carried over. You know, it's a barrier. That's what is there for. So even though in theory it's right that there is a Rhesus incompatibility between a mother and a baby if there's a trauma and the blood's crossed, the chances of that are really very, very low. And also, you know, I think to myself, there's Rhesus incompatibility in everything. It's not just pregnancy like they make out. It's like, that's why Rhesus negative people can't receive positive blood into their own body for a transfusion or whatever, because there's incompatibility. That's why an A positive person couldn't receive a B positive person's blood. They would need their own blood type or an O negative universal donor. So so basically, I feel like this is another hoax, another pharmaceutical piece of magicry, trickery. We've been told we need this. It's actually, when I had the RhoGAM shot, and again, I can't say that this is for sure, but my teeth started to just lose strength and fall out. I had 2 teeth fall out. One during pregnancy, quite soon after receiving the first RhoGAM shot of the routine, and yeah, and subsequently like one after that as well. And yeah, it's just like I don't know, I've just read a lot of people's experiences with like autoimmune diseases, and anyway, I'm getting on a bit. So first pregnancy is fine. Second pregnancy, women may have built up antibodies, and that's why they propose that it's needed to keep the baby safe, just in case. So RhoGAM contained thimerosal, ethyl mercury prior to 2002, linked to autism, Star Child 2009 video I'll link. And I saw somebody in the comments over there saying that, you know, they were pondering whether it was like a silent genocide. This lady said in this other video that I'll put down beneath, the midwife, that there was this, you know, well looked upon midwife, author, writer woman, forgotten her name, who was theorising that the anti-D shots could potentially harm the fertility and the immunity of the babies if the mother received it during pregnancy. So there's just huge risks. So what is RhoGAM? This is another it's just gross, you know. What is RhoGAM? What is this anti-D that we're getting? So anti-D, RhoGAM is anti-D. It's anti-D antibodies harvested from pools of donors. So basically, they get donors, they get Rhesus negative men quite often, or if they've had a very rare case of a woman who's got Rhesus disease, they'll use her antibodies that have been built up already for the RhoGAM shot, for the anti-D. So Rhesus negative men are given Rhesus positive blood to develop a response. And then they harvest the antibodies and they inject them into the Rhesus negative woman. Sounds great, doesn't it? Sounds totally super safe. And, you know, it's just a bit worrying now, isn't it? Because aside from the RhoGAM shot for Rhesus negative women and, you know, the potential risks and damages that this pharmaceutical drug is and has been doing down the line, everybody's been juiced up with a new one now, haven't they? The new mRNA technology. And I'm like, oh, this is going everywhere then, because if what RhoGAM is, an anti-D, it's a blood product, and everybody's blood's been juiced up already with this technology, hasn't it? And so it's almost like, even if I'm just thinking this mRNA technology is finding a way deeply everywhere, regardless as if you've had the latest juice or not. It's like they're in blood products, which is just a huge market. I've done a video about this before, the plasma market, the frozen plasma pharmaceuticals and things. Right down there, yeah, it's almost like they're getting the mRNA tech into everyone through various means. RhoGAM, anti-D blood products, anti-this, anti-that. Mark was mentioning this morning that apparently one of the new childhood vaccination schedules is an anti-cervical cancer mRNA vaccine that people have been told to get. Wow. So anti-cervical vaccines, antibody monoclonal treatment, you know, this, all these new things, anti-aging now, you know, all these vampire facials and all this bullshit. They're talking about young blood being regenerative, and, you know, it's like through these products, and probably a lot of people rely on plasma products, you know, a lot of people who've got immune issues, and it's just pretty gross to think about it, isn't it? That like one vial of this anti-D could potentially be hundreds of people's blood, contaminated blood with God knows what's in it. So yeah, so the risks, obviously, yeah, and this is the same for any blood product that, you know, there's a risk of anaphylaxis or a serious allergic reaction. There's been no research done on risks to baby from anti-D RhoGAM. But they theorised, this author, like I said, theorised fertility and immune issues. Yeah, and in the 70s and 80s it was contaminated. A load of Rhesus negative women were getting anti-D RhoGAM shots that were contaminated with Hep C from people, and the lady was talking about Hep B and AIDS as well, so there's always risks of... and I'm just like, I'm just done with it for two reasons. Again, it's just unnecessary intervention, which is probably having an opposite effect of good on us, you know, as most things seem to be if you take a minute to look into them. And again, it backs up that sort of narrative, that line that Rhesus negatives are aliens or evil because they attack a positive baby. It's like, it's really very clever how they've sort of made it sound as if it's something that happens just like as you're growing your baby, and not something that would be a very, very, very rare occurrence if your blood were to ever mix, you know. And so, anyway, whatever. I had to try and keep myself calm then, because I get really annoyed about it. I put some meditation music on then. I feel like I'm just snapping out of my then, because I just wanted to make sure that I say everything and try and say it in a way where I'm not getting riled up. Because, yeah, it's like, people are always like, oh, Rhesus negative, have a look at Robert Seffer's channel, you know, Atlantean Gardens, and I watch his work and I quite enjoy it. I have to skip the intro because he's such a fucking egotist, I can't be doing with it, but like, and again, I'm not fully on board with everything the guy says, and in some ways I think, you know, he could probably look into things in a different way, but blah blah, whatever, who am I to judge? But yeah, it's like he'll slip it in every so often, you know, and it's just sad, you know, on the History Channel and shit about the mutation, the Rhesus negative blood being a mutation, and for me it's just never felt right. And again, I just say to myself, well, if O negative blood is okay for everyone, it's universal for everyone, everyone can accept it, yet, you know, other people can't accept mixing bloods, you know, like a B can't have an A's blood, or an A can't have an AB's blood, but they can all have an O negative blood. It makes me feel like that must be a base rather than a mutation. But, and again, it doesn't really matter to me. It's just nearly everything that I have like a bit of a sniff of bullshit about and I investigate on usually turns out to be a complete reversal of the way it's portrayed. And I instinctively feel like that about this story of the Rhesus negative blood being a mutation. Yeah. So anyway, one day I might be able to make myself happy with my clearer thoughts on the subject, but for now, yeah, it's just some thoughts on that anti-D and RhoGAM concoction, and I just wanted to record it, for myself. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone's groovy. See you soon.